He's got massive claws and a biting mouth. So I'm like, does he claw them? Or does he miss with the bite?
The shot is one of those flex shots. So check this out.
The thing that makes Gollum work the most for me is just the lip animation. The lip animation is so solid.
So I have a little pause at one moment and you see a little elbow shake.
It's like, do the pores stretch? Do the elbows shake?
Today's episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Stick around to the end to see how you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Visual Effects Artists React. I am super excited for this episode because we are joined by Robyn Luckham from DNEG. He's the animation director and global head of animation over at that studio. He's worked on some incredible films, Avatar, King Kong. I mean, I could go on. We won't. We'll look at the clips together and talk about it. It's gonna be awesome. Robyn, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You're at DNEG. Were you anywhere before that?
Before DNEG, I was at Weta for a good period, about 7 years, and I did a little stint at ILM, doing a bit of Star Wars, and then Frame Club before it.
Yeah, I just did a little bit of Star Wars. It was a thing.
I've been very fortunate in my career, so I think I get it at the right time. But yeah, it's been brilliant.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into some of these clips here and take a look.
Come, Master.
So you got your start at Weta Digital working on this little indie film called The Return of the King. Obviously, the Lord of the Rings series is very special to me. I'm a very big fan, but it also has a lot of landmarks in terms of visual effects, primarily in Gollum.
He wants it. He needs it. Smeagol sees it in his eye.
Gollum for me is still one of those landmarks from animation for visual effects because it's an empathetic creature. Andy Serkis put some efforts into making a character which the audience could believe and not go, why am I looking at CG?
Right.
Now everyone's looking at, well, that's Gollum. I'm not looking at CG anymore. Everyone knows it's not real, but it made an evolution to be a legitimate actor. So working on it was just amazing. I mean, I was just as big a fan as you. Actually, this is a couple of my shots coming up.
Precious. Not this time.
And so when you say you did that shot, you're given this plate and then this rig, and your job is to literally animate all those little tiny dials and knobs that translate to moving those muscles on his face.
Yeah.
So are you responsible for the facial animation, the eyes, the neck and shoulders and arms as well?
Yeah, everything in the shot there.
Okay. I guess in my head, I just kind of figured there'd probably be 2 or 3 artists working on a single shot, but you did it all, is what you're saying.
Every animator had the whole shot because most of the performance is always connected to the body and the eyes are connected to the mouth and so you have to work them out together.
The thing that makes Gollum work the most for me is just the lip animation. The lip animation is so solid because that's one of the hardest things to replicate in an automated way these days. You have this incredible performance from Andy Serkis and people think that, oh yeah, it's just motion capture. They just extracted that and stuck it on a model, good to go. I feel like the reality is that no, there's an actual layer of interpretation from animators and artists that have to actually make that work.
Yeah, the animators they do a massive amount of work. I mean, look at the lips. The lips are a bag of flesh. You can tighten them, you can flex them out. When they push together, they kind of crush in, and they can sometimes stick. You have lip sticky, which is another tool. You can put sticky on the side when you open. I know it sounds gross, but yeah. So when you open your lips, they kind of they sometimes peel. They peel, and if you look at it, there we are.
Yep. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
What a subtle thing that you can't just pull from mocap.
You can't sometimes get it in capture because it's emotionally driven. When you tense up your mouth, your lip will thin. When you have a nose raise, obviously that's pulling other muscles around the lip here. You just have to kind of look, you have to watch and look and get those kind of thins and flesh. It's really, really tricky stuff.
Yeah.
But that's why it works.
Another really interesting thing about Gollum is the fact that he is so emotive. You can really feel the emotions that he's experiencing. But to a certain degree, Gollum is kind of cheat mode because he's not fully human, and so you're able to kind of bypass that uncanny valley a little bit.
100%, and I think that's why it works, and I think that's why from here onwards you see characters like that, and that's why they work, because they have that little play where you can believe into it. It's not like trying to be a perfect human. But it's crazy how old this is.
Yeah, we're literally coming up on the 20-year anniversary of this movie.
I think it's kick-started so many things from there. I really do.
I remember James Cameron saying that his inspiration for pursuing Avatar was seeing Gollum up on the big screen and being like, all right, we're finally here. We can do it. I'm gonna make Avatar.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's right.
So I was very lucky to work a lot on the Thanator. I did all the walk cycles, run cycles for it. But yeah, it was super fun to animate.
When it's getting stuck and caught up on things like that, are you kind of animating the destruction, at least like approximately also?
Yeah, the team who did this one, they were absolutely trying to work the environment as well.
Yeah, because it's like what I'm seeing here that's really fascinating is that like he's interacting with the environment, but the environment is reacting through simulations, like stuff breaking and falling and whatnot. So you have to animate those things getting knocked out, and then someone else takes that animation as the inspiration for the sim.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So we got a lot of freedom to try and be expressive and like use those moments. The shot coming up where he jumps off the cliff, that's why I animated that one.
Oh, cool.
I didn't know how to be threatening. I was like, he's got massive claws and a biting mouth. So I'm like, does he claw them? Or does he miss with the bite? So I actually...
Oh, what an interesting like dilemma. You're like,
So when you actually see the shot, you'll notice I do both.
Oh.
Because I just didn't,
Why not both?
I was like, I have to up the ante so he kind of snaps and claws in a certain rhythm. This was one of the shots where I got a lot of pride because I was in the cinema, and when you hear the audience gasping, going,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh yeah, it makes your day.
There's so many like new things from like a CG pipeline that I saw in this movie too, from like materials that were emitting light, and then of course the fact that it's all shot with like a virtual production style, so you have a lot of handheld camera work.
Wasn't this movie the birth of virtual production? Like I'd never really seen that sort of thing before this. Like I know Robert Zemeckis had done some experiments with some virtual production type stuff, but I really feel it was James Cameron who really kind of like pushed the envelope on having that sort of like CG stuff in real time on set.
I mean, ultimately, he built his whole film around it. Working with him, like this was a leap. This was definitely a leap of production where just the quantity of shots was doing, you know, some movies have maybe about 800 shots. That's a big movie for VFX. I think Return of the King had maybe 1,400, which was huge back in the day. Yeah. And this was like 3,500, I think.
Wow.
And when it was made, it was like unheard of. It's like a fully CG film. You know?
I mean,
Yeah.
essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
This is our land!
You worked on this movie after working on King Kong, because King Kong came before this. What were some of the things you animated for that movie?
I animated Kong climbing up the Empire State Building.
Oh, no way,
wow.
really?
Yeah. That's
Dang,
pretty cool.
Iconic.
Ooh, a one-handed, two-legged climb.
Yeah.
A little twist on the classic.
Yeah, one-arm climbing. I guess he's just got toes of steel just like gripping onto the windows.
Yeah, well, it's hard because he's injured at this point and he has to feel a little laborious. So I have a little pause at one moment and you see a little elbow shake. And he's trying to get this arm up.
Oh man, it's like, do the pores stretch? Do the elbows shake?
Yeah, muscle vibrations.
Yeah, right. So it's just small bits and pieces just to try and add a little bit of substance of what Kong's going through. It's a joy for an animator because you've got such a great beast here to kind of work with. Did have a performance from Andy Serkis as well, and then we could go into it further, make it more gorilla.
That's right. I totally forgot Andy Serkis played King Kong in this movie.
Yeah, he's got a big outfit and buffed up for it. The hardest thing we had, Naomi Watts is on a card. We didn't have a digital double of her.
So for those who don't know, a card is basically just a two-dimensional element. Imagine a picture literally on a card. In this case, it'd be the photography of the actress. And if the card twists, well, it's a card, and you know, it doesn't work.
So it does look like she's on the card. It's hard to animate because the fact is she's filmed on a stage quite still.
Yeah, and you have to imply that motion and
I'm
swaying.
doing motion of sway, and then I'm on a card, so I can't twist it that way or this way. It's hard to tip it that way, and her hair's not doing too much.
Yeah, that's a great way to implement live action photography into a CG scene because it looks great from this one angle, but like I guess you're saying it's like he's holding her and moving and climbing, but she was filmed without a gorilla holding her, so.
Yeah, this time we couldn't get him available.
He was all booked up for the week.
But it's true, and it was a real challenge for the animators, especially on shots where the camera's moving around, or especially on shots where he's fighting a dinosaur. You have to be very careful with it, otherwise it breaks.
Can't push it far, yeah.
No, but then if you don't push it far enough, it looks like someone's just moving around. It's a fine balance. I think I might have almost got it, but yeah, it was really tricky.
I mean, I think it looks great.
So why not just have a 3D double for the actress?
So I think at that moment specifically, it was a very important moment to see Anne connecting with Kong. It was about Naomi there, so they couldn't have a digital double there.
Thinking back to before you were an animator, is there a film that sticks out to you, something you saw, something that inspired you to start thinking about animation?
Yeah, seeing things like Clash of the Titans, Harryhausen, and Jason the Argonauts and Skeletons and all that kind of mythical fantasy. This is one of my favorite sequences because it's so scary and cool. This is all stop motion. Again, it's kind of interesting how stop motion is really physical, really real, but if you notice the performances, they're not performances of Disney. You know, they're not hugely kind of gestured. It's actually kind of the precursor, I'd say, to more VFX animation than maybe Disney is, because it's quite real and it has certain weight. There's no motion blur as well on the guys because they didn't know how to do motion blur, but then afterwards they had a tool which added motion blur.
Yeah, I think they called it Go Motion.
That's it, Go Motion, yeah.
Yeah, but this is before that time. This is just raw stop motion animation where it's like you have to make sure that your poses are correct every single frame.
Exactly, and it's just knowing as well where you're going with those poses to make it work. Oh, it's so good.
I can't believe how good this looks.
I think it's because it's stop motion, obviously you've got brilliant lighting. It's going to look like the environment. In fact, he's almost out of place.
Yeah. Well, just the nuance, like look at their swords, like they're pushed together.
Yeah.
For Ray Harryhausen to like line it up in camera and put the sword there, and then he moves the sword, then Ray Harryhausen moves the skeleton sword to the exact same spot of contact on the sword. It's so precise, and there's the whole compositing thing that's happening in camera with the stop motion and the background being filmed at the same time, because there's no green screening or blue screening happening here.
No, and I just love the action. They're so cool design. There's little things like that, jumping over his feet forward that way, and it's that little animation there. As he came to stop, he kind of like scurried a little bit and went left. I mean, he didn't have to do that extra step, but it adds a little tension of like, where am I going? He obviously filmed himself doing that, I guess.
I mean, yeah, it sells the sense of motion there. You know, he's got momentum, and you can't just like.
Yeah, it's
like
there he's scurrying around. And
yeah, I think most people don't really realize just how much subtlety that goes into how we move, and it's an animator's job to replicate that subtlety rather than just the motion, you know?
Yeah, it's an amazing career because you learn so many things. I always said to an animator, you know, you learn something about animation and you think you know it all, and then you open a new door and you're like, oh my God, I'm starting again. So it's great, it goes on forever. You keep learning and learning and learning. So you might learn the physics of someone, how it walks, and then say, oh, can you make him walk looking upset? And it's like, okay, well, that's different physics then. Okay, well, I've just learned how to walk, now it has to be sad, or make it trip halfway through. So many subtleties you learn, and they all have to be believable, because if you look at it on the screen and it doesn't look right, you know straight away, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a good deal of craft that goes into it. They're just so great. They were amazing to see. I think I've got a fan for skeletons. I need to do some skeleton movies.
Hey, we got these episodes coming out every single week, so chances are they're showing up in your recommended feed, but you know what would make that even better? If it shows up in your subscription feed. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us out. Thank you.
You owe Davy Jones your soul. That was the agreement. Time's up.
So Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest had this, probably in my opinion, one of the most incredible characters of all time, Davy Jones. And it was one of the first effect shots we looked at on this entire show.
He blows it out with his cheek nostril. I didn't even realize that. Oh my God.
Was it in the very first episode?
It might have been, because I remember Ren was like, they actually kept the eyes from the original actor. And
I
then
didn't say it like that.
Now his eyes are real.
Yeah.
They're faking it a little bit by actually using the real eyes.
Ren got an email from one of the people who worked on it. He's like, actually, that's 100% CG.
Because it's like you see the behind the scenes photo of Bill Nye, and he's got like these marks around his face and whatnot, but his eyes are actually painted black. And I made the presumption that like they kept the real eyes, but in reality, it's like to make those eyes work with the rest of Davy Jones' head, they had to be rendered, and it was very good.
But look at that, that's such a great shot. And they're having these kind of, he's smoking at the same time and it's coming out the side.
This shot is one of those flex shots. So check this out.
Long
Shot, holding it, interacting with the pipe. There's smoke, you can't tell.
Yeah, that's the winning shot, isn't it? It's such a beautiful acting.
Davy Jones is, in my opinion, the first CG character I saw that looked 100% real.
Oh, it was brilliant. And I think this was done after Gollum came out as well. But this was brilliant. I remember seeing this going, whoa, this is such an expressive character. Bill Nighy, again, is an expressive face. But this, the way they've put it all together, all that tentacle work, the nose flesh around the lip and how the lip pushes together as well. As we know, there's nothing there stopping it. But it feels heavy and it feels connected.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
The lighting is also just so perfect. The shading, the subsurface scattering, the secondary motion that's like half physics, half hand animation. When you can add that physics like on top of it,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, let's just do like some claw sim / tentacle sim / whatever around the hand animation. Suddenly it just like gives it all a nice like 20% quality
Absolutely.
bump.
It's almost like a doubling a layer of our skin fascia and fat. It adds so much calculations that you can't keyframe.
Yeah.
And it really, really affects it. Oh, it's brilliant. But obviously the tentacles, again, they're doing a mind of their own as well as having a dynamic interaction.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's like there's physics, there's swaying, but then they're also curling up.
Yeah.
Like if you were to chop the tail off of a gecko or something, it still is gonna like curl around and whatnot. And we're kind of seeing that at play here, on top of the physics being driven by an actual animation of his head.
Life is cruel. Why should the afterlife be any different?
What jumps out to you as like the most challenging aspect of doing Davy Jones apart from the tentacles?
They obviously solved what this character was going to be. The difficult bit would be you've got such a big top lip and you've got no nose.
Right.
And you've got a bottom lip and you have to get this expression. It's almost like he's snarling a lot because then that snarl pushes a lot of movement. So the hardest bit would probably trying to get the lines red when you've got this big, almost like a moustache really, isn't it?
Yeah, I was exactly. It kind of just looks like a big mustache.
But it has flesh. So I think the hardest would be just trying to deliver those lines correctly when you don't have that range of motion of the top lip that you'd usually expect.
You're totally right. I only just now realized that sort of like complexity there, that challenge. Yeah. I was hoping I was going to bring up, I distinctly remember him going,
Yeah.
and then we just saw it.
But I think it's just fleshy, and like flesh stuff, as we talked about, it's really hard to do because there's no knowledge of each other, and because it feels so heavy in flesh, and you've got little kind of suckers on the side that are blowholes as well reacting. That flesh and that simulator really helps bind the character. Obviously, Bill Nighy has done a tremendous job coming up with this character, which has helped influence all the animation, much like Zoe Saldana did with Naturi. It really nails it, but it's just so well done.
I imagine they would have to overemphasize certain types of animation just to get that sort of translation across.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think it's very fleshy. It's dampening down a lot because it looks like it pins from the cheekbone down to the lip. So all that motion underneath that, you'd really have to push it. But I think maybe the performance from Bill overemphasizes that, so you can really lean into his kind of character and throw the lips up a bit higher, maybe push the bottom lip a bit more to try and over-enunciate these things and get more reaction from the face.
So how much do you think was Bill Nighy like really specifically overacting on set versus not acting enough and the animator having to up those sort of actions?
I would say that Bill would probably have a good handle of what he was doing, but again, a lot of things when you go on set and have an actor and then try and put it into CG, you do lose a lot of emotion. So sometimes you have to push it a little bit in CG to get that read.
It reminds me a little bit of like back in the day with the original Planet of the Apes, where you have all of this really intense looking makeup on top of a person's face, and it really just dampens the performance.
Yeah.
Like you're not able to really get some of those subtleties coming through. I imagine it's a very similar challenge here, but they have the flexibility of being able to like, you know, show it.
Yeah, and also because you've got all these tentacles and they are driven by the face as well, you've almost got extra bits of energy that can add to a performance. So as you move your lip up, well, then you've got 6 tentacles on the side coming with it as well.
Right,
so
okay,
therefore
sure.
It's adding another enunciation to that motion.
It's like the tentacles moving help inform that the upper lip moved.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Okay.
I think, you know, we're at a stage now, it's kind of funny how much we've gone, because these are conversations we used to have back in Davy Jones' day, but now everyone knows it, you know. Thanks to you guys doing channels like this as well, people have knowledge and like the standard is up. And I love that fact, because it means then I can look forward into things I don't know what about, you know, so we don't have to solve those problems. You can look in really weird directions and see how things go, you know.
Hey you, it's Saturday, you're eating breakfast, a bowl of cereal. But you know what? You're the kind of person that eats 2 bowls of cereals, and this episode only covers 1. Well, guess what? We have a solution for that. KodoDigital.com, we have extended episodes on the site, so when you eat 2 bowls of cereal, the episode will last for both of them. Check it out, free trial.
We've looked at a lot of things on this show at this point, and we get most of our suggestions from the comments, but I'm curious what scenes we've already looked at that perhaps need a second look.
That's a good one. I like that one. Yeah, Wren's suggestion, please.
Visual effects, am I right? Okay, here's what you're thinking. You're like, man, I would love to be good at visual effects, but Jake, I don't have the time to spend the next 5 years of my life training myself, getting good at it. Well, that's true. In the world of visual effects, you need to put the time in. But courtesy of today's sponsor, Squarespace, you do not have to do that when it comes to creating a beautiful and effective website for your small business or for you. Now, you might not know this, but for years, I struggled to find the right way to get Corridor Digital a website. I tried different services, I tried this and that. I knew nothing. Guess what actually fixed it in the end? Squarespace. It was super simple because they have beautiful award-winning templates. That was years ago. Now they have so many more services that are so much more efficient, effective, and great for your small business or service. The first thing that Squarespace has is video studio tools, which allow you to create videos directly within Squarespace. That's a super awesome tool that you now get access to, boom, with your Squarespace subscription. They also have members only areas that you can create with your website, which allow you to give members only access to different people, different types of audiences who are coming into your site. They also have other phenomenal features like email campaigns if you want to do that, format and get an email out to a bunch of people. And they've got some of the best analytics in the game, which allow you to better understand your site, who's coming to it, and how to better tailor it to those people. So as a person who has used Squarespace extensively before they even sponsored this channel, and now seeing all the things that you can do with it now, it truly is like knowing visual effects without knowing visual effects. So anyways, if you guys are interested in getting started for yourself and getting 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, click the link in the description below or go to squarespace.com/corridorcrew. Say it with me. That's squarespace.com/corridorcrew. And now let's get back to those visual effects.
Man, that was a wild ride. Dude, Robyn, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was a blast. Thank you so much for watching. We're gonna have to have you back at some point. Maybe not too far away. Maybe a Sandy feature.
I would love to. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It was great just to go through with detail. It's a passion. I love it. I always want to do it. I just want to do more and more creatures and get into more weird stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much. It was great.
Yeah, no, that was really cool. I'm really glad we were able to like even check out some stuff from like Davy Jones and like all these really like tentpole industry defining moments like Gollum.
It's really crazy though. You're like, yeah, you know, these tentpole industry defining moments like Gollum, which I worked on, and then, you know, King Kong, which I worked on. And
I've been fortunate.
yeah. Oh, and then of course Avatar, which I worked on.
Now I'm going to blush. Now I'm blushing. Okay, all right.
Well, thanks again, and I will see you in the next episode because that's how screens work. My eyeballs go through them. Nathan, for you.